Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to be welcoming Prince Charles and his wife Camilla to Canada today as they kick off a 3-day tour, which starts on the East Coast.
That's right. The Royals' first stop is in St. John's. The plan includes visits with local community members and dignitaries. The pair will also meet with Indigenous leaders at a garden dedicated to the memory of children who died and those who survived the residential school system. The couple is expected to travel to Ottawa tomorrow, and the trip is part of the celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Now, CTV's royal commentator Richard Berthelsen joins us now live this morning to talk more about this trip. Richard, good morning to you. Glad you're here. This, of course, a lot of it's about Indigenous reconciliation and climate change. The environment, of course, very close to the Prince Charles's heart. Could you explain a bit of the work he does for that cause?
Well, the Prince has been an ardent environmentalist for about probably 50 years now. And, this follows on somewhat of a tradition in the family. Prince Philip himself was extremely involved in issues as well. That is his father. So he's continued that on, and he's really spoken out quite strongly in the last 15 or 20 years about environmentalism, climate change, sustainability in particular. So you see quite a lot in the itinerary around those issues. He's going to be having roundtables with people, discussions about sustainability. And I think he really is going to fit in largely with what the Government of Canada's agenda is in this area. The tour is going to end, in fact, in the Northwest Territories, where he's going to a community where the ice road is no longer in for as many months as it used to be. And that creates serious issues for transportation and other matters, where that's sometimes the only link with communities in the north.
And let's talk about Indigenous reconciliation, Richard. The president of the Métis National Council intends to ask for the Queen to apologize for its role in Canada's residential school system. Do you think that an apology is likely? Recently, we saw Prince William express sorrow for slavery during a trip to Jamaica. So do you think we could expect similar comments from Prince Charles over residential schools?
Well, one of the first events in the tour today is going to be dealing with reconciliation from the point of view of attending a garden at Government House in St. John's, which is dedicated to those young people who did lose their lives. And we've only come to terms with that as a country in the last 2 years. I think the question of apologies and those matters from the Crown directly are complicated. The Government of Canada has already apologized for its role. The churches are starting to do that more clearly now. So the Queen's government, in Canada has made that apology. Whether or not that will come directly, I think it's unlikely. But I do think you're going to see the Prince doing a lot of listening to Indigenous people in Newfoundland today, attending this ceremony, and certainly on the last day of the tour, where he's actually going to talk about treaties and listen to what the experience has been. And that has happened on several royal tours in Canada. Whether we go beyond that, I think it's a bit unlikely on this tour, because a lot of the tour is really billed as an opportunity to listen and learn, particularly from Indigenous people, but also to really focus on what is going on in Canada, because the Prince hasn't been here for 4 or 5 years, where this issue has really changed quite dramatically in terms of how Canadians perceive it.
Richard, it's interesting because the Prince seems to have he's high profile already, but he definitely has a higher profile right now. He opened the British Parliament and placed the Queen just last week. Do you kind of see Charles's recent visibility really as a move to get the public kind of acclimatized to him taking over the monarchy at some point?
Definitely. There's been a 10-year plan, really, to put the Prince more front and center in the public eye, performing the roles of the Queen. And this has really been increased in the last 2 or 3 years, partly because of COVID, and the Queen has been much more reticent to be out in public at all, but also because of the Queen's, changed mobility, the fact that she's 96 years of age. There's a real move right now for the palace to show the Prince undertaking as many engagements and as many roles as possible, including some of the constitutional roles that he can, because after such a long reign, no one can really perceive of anyone doing that job except the Queen. And so it's a real issue. And that is exactly what's happening. Of course, this tour in Canada is his 19th. He's tended to be here every 2 or 3 years to keep in touch with what's going on in Canada. And it really is more in keeping with that. But we have to now look at him as the future king, as he will be in probably, a relatively short number of years.
CTV's royal commentator Richard Berthelsen, appreciate it. Thank you for your time.